But the major trades had something else to say.
They did.
They
It
did.
was leaked on Monday.
They
right?
did. Yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
It was yesterday.
Time is an illusion.
Time is an illusion. It leaked yesterday. You and I have very differing opinions on this MCU news. And
Yes.
we have some Fantastic Four casting news. Sean, would you like to tell the people what the casting news is?
Pedro Pascal has supposedly signed on to play Reed Richards in the upcoming Fantastic Four movie after John Krasinski and what was the other person?
Well, there's been a lot of names floated.
Including Adam Driver.
Adam Driver was floated for a minute. A bunch of stuff was floated for a minute. I think they've looked at a lot of people for this role.
Oh, absolutely.
Mallow.
Because it's going to be it is going to be probably with Doctor Strange. And again, they're bringing in the adults to do the Avenger work. That's not to say that some of the young Avengers won't be there because it's going to be a big team up movie. But like to lead the Avengers, they're going to need the adults in the room, and Reed Richards will be one of them.
And he's the grandpapa of the Marvel universe. It's the first family of Marvel. You are a fan of this casting.
I am, and I'm not. Me personally, I don't think that Pedro is the right person to play Reed Richards when I see them in my head. I want John Krasinski back. I think he was fantastic for the 5 minutes we saw him on screen. Adam Driver actually probably could have pulled it off too, and I was getting kind of excited about that.
That was my choice.
Where I love this kind of thing, though, for Pedro to be in there, is because when, and we talk about this all the time when it comes to sci-fi and the nerdy kind of things, you have to get the normies. You have to get the casual fans to care. And putting Pedro Pascal in there in a starring role of a major MCU movie franchise, because let's be honest, it's not going to be just one movie. That's a solid move, frankly. You're going to get, and the chat already, like, chat, when I said Pedro Pascal, somebody already said, hell yes. Like, that's enough to get people excited about it. That's enough to get people to want to go to the movie theater to see what is possible.
Now we're going to Mr. Fantastic take a magical child from point A to point B. If that's the plot of the movie, I'm going to be pissed. Okay. So I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with the following. I love Pedro Pascal. I really do. I loved him in Game of Thrones. I loved him in The Mandalorian. I loved him in The Last of Us. I loved him in the episode of Law and Order where he plays a skeezy club owner.
I remember that episode.
Okay. I loved him in Narcos. Right? I love him because as a Latino man who grows a patchy beard, Pedro Pascal makes Latino men with patchy beards because, I mean, look at his beard. It's patchy and it kind of grows in funky and I love it. Right? I love Pedro Pascal. I don't love him for this role. And the chat in YouTube chat specifically is pointing this out. He doesn't scream huge nerd who's always the smartest guy in the room. The thing about Krasinski, the thing about Adam Driver, I could see them walking in and be like, I am the smartest guy here.
Yeah.
Period. I just don't see that. And this feels... I don't want to... So John Krasinski in Multiverse of Madness was stunt casting, right? That was Marvel playing a joke, and we knew it. That was Marvel going, all of you guys have been saying, cast John Krasinski for years. There's been so much like fan want. So they were like, we're going to give it to you this one time. For 5 minutes, we're going to let you have your way. Here's John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. That was stunt casting. This feels like desperation casting.
It does feel a little bit like that, but if there's one thing that I have learned so far, it is to not underestimate Pedro Pascal's ability to act. And if you ever need that, if you ever need a reason to believe in that, go watch The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent and tell me that man does not have some range.
It's fair.
Yeah, you're opposite Nick Cage and you have to out crazy Nick Cage and you do it.
That's fair.
So that's the one thing that I think, I mean, let's be honest, the man works his ass off.
Well, and so
Like,
that's
he really does, and he's earned every bit of flowers he gets.
according to the trades, that's the big hangup. Right now, the big hangup, and the reason they haven't announced it, is schedule. They're trying to work it out between Last of Us Season 2 and a couple other things that he's already signed on and is contractually obligated to do to see if they can get him in there. You and I talked about this. If Last of Us Season 2 follows Game 2, which is what they're saying so far, I mean, he's going to have to he's going to film like an episode or two and then he'll be done.
Spoilers for if you haven't played the game.
You haven't played the game. So take that for what it's worth.
Chat says it feels like who's the guy that all the nerds on TikTok like? They call him Dad, so he'd be perfect for the father of Marvel. I mean, it kind of, I mean, it does kind of feel that way, but like in some other ways, like it like I said, it can make a lot of sense.
Yes. Again, I don't love this casting. Now, what could make me like this casting, and somebody asked this before, is who's going to be Doom. If they stick to it, Doom and Mr. Fantastic should be about the same age because they're contemporaries in the comic books. Mads Mikkelsen is the name that's been floated the most for Doctor Doom, which I think is great.
I think you need you almost need a little bit more gravitas to that, which is one of the things I thought Jonathan Majors brings to Kang. Mads is almost too quiet in some ways. He's too methodical with some of that stuff. And that's my big worry about pulling him into that role.
Yeah.
Also, he's going to have a face mask on most of the time, unless they do something
I think they're going to do something different. Somebody in YouTube chat said, I like Cavill. He's too busy. And I don't think he'll come to Marvel at this point.
They can back a boatload of money up to his thing, and he will come.
But Amazon already did that. They backed up a boatload of money and said, here, make the Warhammer show you want to make.
Yeah, and he can do two things.
So I think that the Pedro casting is not going to just be Doom, but who's the rest of the team? Yeah. Who is his Sue Storm? Who's Johnny?
Well, Johnny's got to be Chris Evans, of course.
Who's the thing? Oh, we're going back.
I want that scene in the Kang Dynasty when we have all the worlds colliding and everything like that. I want Chris Evans is Johnny Storm and Chris Evans, America's ass, to be looking at each other. Like, that's gotta happen, right? Come on, Marvel, throw me a bone here.
Yeah.
Mads has already shown up in Doctor Strange. That is a good point.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody does this. Anna de Armas for Sue. Her name's been floated.
Yes.
I'll be curious to see what they do. That's going to be...
It has to be better than all of the people that they had before. Like, I would have killed to have seen Ray Stevenson as Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
But sadly, we've lost that one. So, and we've lost Russell Crowe to he's in Thor.
Yeah, it's Zeus.
Sorry, there we go.
Yep.
I think we could do with who is the original actor that played Sabretooth in the X-Men series?
Liev Schreiber.
He's got the build for it. I don't know if he's got the menace and the pull through for something like that. But I think he's certainly got the build and everything like that. Because Doom's got to be like an imposing, like you almost got to do a little bit like.
Come on, it's the MCU. Like, they're gonna give him a pseudo Iron Man suit with a cape.
But he's got magical powers and everything like that too. Like that's the whole thing that's got to be happening. Like the thing that comes around and why Doom is so interesting as a character for Secret Wars here is that we have through this phase been setting up that science and magic are one and the same in the MCU. We see Kang controlling the multiverse through science, We see the Eternals basically being walking robots, but all of their powers look like magic and stuff like that.
The Eternals, the movie that everybody forgot about.
Well, I can't forget about it. It's still there.
And let's not forget, we've got the MCU. There's a giant thing floating in the Indian Ocean, but nobody mentions that.
It's much like the sword sticking out of Azeroth in World of Warcraft. It's like, oh, that sword, the giant one that looks like it's right here. God, yeah, we forgot to talk about that for 3 expansions.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito. Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Eternal what? Exactly. It's Danny DeVito for the thing. It's going to be interesting. Again, not my first choice for Mr. Fantastic casting. I really want to know who the rest of the Fantastic Four are.
Yeah, because it's gotta be the right level of.
They've got to feel like a family.
They've got to feel like a family, and here's the thing about it is like, even if Jonathan Majors, legal troubles and stuff like that catch up to him, as we expect they do, you got to recast Kang, and you've got to finish that storyline. You can't just cut it off after.
And you and I talked about this. They did recasting in the early parts of the MCU, and they become so fucking afraid of it lately.
Yeah, and that in Star Wars needs to recast, and I would argue that all of the recasts have been really, really good. Don Cheadle versus Terrence Howard is a hell of an upgrade. When they recast Bruce Banner, hell of an upgrade. Like, it's gonna be okay. You can find other people who can do this.
YouTube chat's pointing something else out, which is the other reason why I thought Pedro Pascal was weird. Pedro Pascal's 48.
Yeah, but Reed Richards is up there too.
Yeah, but you could have started him at like 39. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have to be almost... And by the time he actually plays the role, he will be almost 50.
Right. Reed Richards also has a lot of gray hair in some of the comics too.
Yeah. Yeah, take it for what it's worth.